Today, I want to mess with something you think you understand: emotions. And I'm not going to do it in a therapy way, not in a self help way, not in a you should heal your childhood way, not in a manage your feelings kind of way. So it's going to be in a more honest and structural way. So I want to talk about what emotion actually is in the body before we even name it, before we even label it, and before modern psychology places it in boxes. Because here's the thing that absolutely no one tells you clearly enough: your emotions are not your personality. They're not you. You are not happy. You are not angry. They are not your identity. They are not your character. They are not even your values or your ideas. They most certainly do not represent your moral compass or anything about you. They are energy moving through your body. That's why the name is quite revealing. E, energy, motion. E, motion, energy in motion. And when that energy stops moving through your body, your lifestyle stops moving with it. Life has no inherent meaning. If meaning is not assigned by you, it will be assigned by the system. Welcome to Meta Monday. We already discussed in previous episodes about the bicameral mind and about how your identity is formed. So we discussed both about when consciousness used to be a lot more embodied and less narrating what happened to me. And we also discussed why our fear strategies, our survival strategies are not our personality. So today we're just adding another layer. We're just going deeper into the same thing. And we're looking at emotion as it is an energy in motion. Because most of what we call trauma, it's not about what happened to us. It's about when that movement was blocked. And when that movement gets blocked, it reenacts itself. It gets stuck in the body and it keeps playing, replaying on repeat. This is the most blunt part about emotions. When you refuse to feel them fully, when you refuse to allow them to pass through your body, your unconscious registers that. And your unconscious will choose your life before you can even make up reasons, not because it's following your heart, not because it's following your passions, your curiosity, anything that you define as yourself, but because it registered that avoidance, and it will do everything in its power for you to not feel that. So I want to slow down a bit because I want to discuss about something that modern psychology kind of gets half right and half wrong. And it kind of keeps us looping because of the half wrong part of it. So let's discuss emotions. When we talk about emotions, we usually start with words first, right? We talk about anger, fear, joy, happiness, satisfaction, frustration, grief. as if those words are the emotion, but they're not. Those words are just labels that our conscious mind has slapped onto a bundle of processes that are happening inside our body. They're just explanations for a sensation that is very real and very true in our body. So, before language and before the bicameral mind, like we discussed in the first episode, before the inner narration happened, humans did not do this, did not say, I'm angry, I'm sad, they didn't have an I'm something emotion. They just experienced the sensation. They experienced fear rushing up their chest, heat rushing up their chest, a note in the throat, their jaw clenching, their breath speeding up, their hands wanting to punch, their hands wanting to push. Those are physical storms inside the body, and that's what emotion actually is. The word anger comes later. It's once we've already stepped out of the sensation and went into our head in order to have clarity over those sensations. It's the same with grief, for example. Grief is not the word and it's not a synonym for sadness. It's when the body feels sunken. There's a drop in your chest. It's when your heart feels heavy. It's when your ribs feel like they're clenching, strangling you, and they're pulling inwards. It's when tears arrive before you even decided to cry. That sinking, those bodily things, that's the emotion. Grief, it's the story we tell ourselves in order to gain clarity about the processes of the body. Fear is the same. Fear isn't some concept. Fear is cold in the limbs. It's tightness in your belly. It's the shallow, quick breathing that you get. It's the muscles tensing and ready to spring, ready to run. Fear, it's electric and it's intensely alive in the body. Fear and anger are some of the most kinetic emotions. The kinetic energy, the movement is the emotion, the energy in motion, not the name. And this matters because when we start with the words, when we say, I'm angry, we've already moved out. We've already moved out of the raw emotion and we've already stepped into what we now say identity. I'm angry. We've turned a wave, an energy into a thing. And when we do that, the wave stops moving. Now, psychology tells us that it's important. We need to name our emotions. But nobody tells you that the cost of naming your emotion is pulling yourself straight out of your body. Yes, the benefit of naming your emotion afterwards is clarity. But when you start with I am angry, when you start with the explanation and start with the bodily sensation, you start analyzing before you even feel. You start asking, why am I angry? Who triggered me? What's the justification of this sensation? Instead of letting that fire, that discomfort move through you. Because emotion was never meant to be solved, it was never meant to be understood. It was meant to pass. In all esoteric traditions, emotions are water. Clouds are water, they move through the sky. You are the sky that holds them all. Emotions are clouds, are vapors, are water. And they want to shout, push, shake, expand. Fear wants to move you into fight or flight. Joy wants to vibrate, wants to open your chest, wants to show up. Even grief wants to move. It wants tears. It wants shaking. It wants vulnerability. It wants release. It wants your softening. Now, let's go into trauma. Trauma is not the moment where something happens. Trauma is when this emotion, this energy of movement gets interrupted. So let's review. Something overwhelming happens to you. That's what we call the point of trauma, the moment in history, in your history, that your body started to respond to something overwhelming. And then the world comes in and says, don't scream, don't cry, don't rage, don't collapse, get over it. That's not the way. So that energy freezes. It has no place to move out. So it can't disappear. It just stays in your unconscious as tension, as numbness, as anxiety, as control, as dissociation. This is why trauma is not actually a memory of a point in time. It's an unfinished biological process. It's an unfinished energy that was supposed to move to the body. And then we also call certain emotions as negative emotions. Why? They're not bad, they're not morally wrong, they just feel awful physically. Uh, Rage feels like burning, fear feels like freezing, grief is heavy and sunken. And instead of sitting with that discomfort, we learn to shut it down. But unfortunately, freezing and shutting down the emotion does not make you calm. It only makes you distant, rigid, and cut off from your own life. Now, emotions don't always need to be dramatic. They don't always need to look like tears, like shaking, like punching. Sometimes they show up as emptiness, numbness, nothingness at all. That's still energy in motion. Freeze is still an emotional state, it's just not expressive. So often, when we pretend that nothing is there, there's a lot over there. I will be honest, one of the hardest emotions for me to process was the state of freeze. But processing those emotions connect us back to life. When an emotion is stuck in your body, it becomes a quiet ruler of your unconscious. Your mind thinks it's choosing. They think it thinks it's running over your life. But what's actually steering your life, it's your unconscious. And if you have, for example, fear stuck somewhere inside you, your unconscious will reorganize reality itself around avoiding anything that might bring that sensation back. So you shrink, you play safe, you review scenarios before they even happen, you don't take risk, you don't desire too much. And you end up using your mind and call it being practical, staying safe. If you have anger or rage frozen, you'll either silence yourself forever or explode randomly and unpredictably, which is far more dangerous than actually going through your rage. If you have grief stored in you, you're going to be avoidant in relationships because you don't want to experience that again. we are no longer choosing. Trauma is choosing for us. Our backlog of unfelt, unprocessed sensations is choosing for us. And this is the biggest trap that nobody really wants to see, because they think that if they understand their emotions and if they speak about them eloquently, they're going to be free of them. But intellectualizing often is exactly what keeps us stuck. I could explain my anger perfectly for years and trace it back to moments where I felt what, and I could analyze it in perfect details and still be completely disconnected from how it anger feels and experiences in my body. Understanding, rationalizing, analyzing, justifying does not move energy. Feeling it does. To really process an emotion is to stay with the raw sensation of it without trying to name it. So many times when I named it, I pushed myself instantly out of it. I rushed to explain it. And when you feel that heat or that cold or that shaking and you don't run, your body is capable of doing something absolutely amazing. It finishes it. And that wave simply passes. And your nervous system simply rests. And suddenly you actually feel like you are okay with it. You feel like you have more choice. Now, freedom doesn't come from motivational speaking. Freedom doesn't come from just doing it. It's about exactly being capable of feeling discomfort and not running for it. I'm not saying chasing it. I'm not saying you have to try to suffer honestly. I'm just saying to allow your body to complete the process of feeling it. When you allow yourself to do that, the unconscious memories, the unconscious traps start losing their grip and you start choosing from presence. That's the point of it. You don't have to be numb. You don't have to not feel anything because you processed all your emotions. You have to be present, honest, feeling right now what is. And if that feeling brings you back to something before, what happened before doesn't matter more than the feeling itself. Emotions are not you, they are like the clouds in the sky, and you are the whole sky encompassing them all. And when you actually allow them to storm, allow them to move, allow them to move fast with the wind or all of that, when you allow them to be, you can actually expand and have choice. And that's when you get your actual life back. That's when you actually get your freedom. That's what I actually consider freedom, the ability to stay with your own discomfort, the ability to stay with your own comfort and happiness without fleeting and without having to justify either of them. That's the only moment where the present becomes the timeline where you're actively living in. Otherwise, you're stuck in avoiding something that happened in the past, and your unconscious decided that you're avoiding that before you. Or you're projecting something that you're chasing in the future because, again, you're avoiding to feel something in the present moment. When we avoid to feel the bodily sensation of an energy that's moving through us. That's all that emotions are. They're not you, they're not your personality. You're not angry. You don't have a anger issue. You don't have a grief issue, you don't have an issue. You are taken over by an energy in motion that is right now moving through your body. Your task is to allow it to move and allow it to go into clarity and allow it to wash through you as information, as calibration, as something about you. How do you feel that? How much capacity you have to hold that? And after that, that's where you get your freedom. That's where you get to choose. That's where you get to interact with others. That's when you get to be yourself. That's when you get to express. That's when you get you back. When you allow the energy to move without identifying, without justifying, and without explaining. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you again next time. Bye. Thank you for watching this episode of Meta Monday. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe.